Is that your baby?
Yes.
You can come get him.
It has been a while since we have had a good old-fashioned sit down, well, I'm not sitting down, I'm standing up, but a good old-fashioned chat. And today, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about something that I find very interesting. I think it's something that's not talked about enough, and it's something that is relevant to me right now. We're going to be talking about trying to conceive after the ancient age of 35. I am 35 years old and I am not trying to conceive. I have a 1-year-old who is still nursing around the clock, but I am definitely open to life, and I don't know exactly what that is going to mean for my family, because at 35 things could start slowing down, and maybe that means we never have another baby, but maybe it means I have like 10 more years left in my fertile window. I just don't know. But as we have this conversation, do keep in mind that I am coming at it from the perspective of a Catholic woman, and so I do, fully believe in and agree with church teaching as far as contraception. That's not something that we use or ever will use in any circumstance. We will not be using any kind of contraception. So for us, we're just going to be open to life until God closes the fertile window. And so the first thing I want to talk about with this is age as a social construct. That's a huge buzz term now, social construct, right? We hear that, being a man or a woman, gender is a social construct. I think that's what they say now, right? Well, we don't believe that here on this channel, but I want to talk to you guys about age and, being geriatric pregnancy as a social construct, because if you're a woman and you've ever stepped inside of an OBGYN's office, if you're one day over 35, then you automatically get put into that geriatric pregnancy category and you're labeled high risk. Doesn't matter what kind of shape you're in. Maybe you are in fabulous shape. You have no health problems to speak of, no health history. You've had amazing, easy pregnancies. It doesn't matter. If you're in the conventional maternity care system, just because you're 35 years old, you're automatically high risk, and that subjects you and your baby to just a lot more testing, more doctor's visits, more precautions, just because of your age. Whereas maybe your friend Susie is only 34 and she's maybe overweight, has some hormonal problems, some other health problems, nothing too serious, but she's just not in that greatest shape. But she's not high risk. She doesn't check any specific box that's going to make her high risk. And because she's 6 months younger than you, then she doesn't have to jump through all of these extra hoops. That's how it works. Now I understand, in the medical world, you just do have to draw a line at some point and say, okay, at what age or at what point are we going to acknowledge that maybe there are situations that make pregnancy harder for mom or more dangerous for baby? But that's what I want to talk about. Is pregnancy always more dangerous for mom and baby just because you're older? We will get to those specific questions, but back to the age as a social construct. Labeling pregnancies geriatric just because a woman turns 35 doesn't line up with nature, or if you are a religious person, then it doesn't line up with the story of God's creation and God's teaching, because God through nature has set the fertile window to have a definite start time when a woman, first enters puberty and starts ovulating, and it has a definite end time, which is menopause. It doesn't go on forever, right? I know that there are crazy exceptional stories of women having babies when they're super old, but that just really doesn't happen. So for most women, they're only fertile for a period of 20 to 30 years. It's not their whole life. Since we're talking all about health today, I've got to tell you guys about one of my favorite sources for quality supplements, and that is Mary Ruth's Organics. Mary Ruth's Organics has been a trusted name, not only in my house, but in my mom's house and my sister's house, in all of our houses in this family, this very crunchy family, for years now. And what I really love about Mary Ruth's Organics is that they have everything you need Whether you are in a busy season of life and you need just like a one-stop shop multivitamin, or you need something more targeted, Mary Ruth's is gonna have you covered. So one of the staples here in my house is Mary Ruth's Liquid Morning Multivitamin plus hair growth, and they actually have a new flavor, dragon fruit melon. My daughter tried it. She said she loves this one. This is her favorite. So this is going to cover all of your bases for a multivitamin, no matter what season you're in. It's got all the B vitamins, and it's also got Listreva, which is clinically proven to help you grow thicker, fuller hair in a short amount of time. But don't take my word for it. Go and read the reviews on Amazon. That's something that I really like to do. Anytime I'm gonna try something new, I wanna read the reviews. So I would recommend that you do that as well. But also, like I said, if you need something more targeted, I've used Mary Ruth's so many times when I was looking for something specific and I just couldn't find a trusted source. I know Mary Ruth's is gonna have me covered. So one thing that is in my daily routine is CoQ10, and that's something we will talk about later in this video. Mary Ruth's Organics is also Clean Label Project verified, so they're third-party tested. You know that all the claims they're making about their products are actually true. Now is a great time to try Mary Ruth's when you use my code MRO HopewellH at the website, at Mary Ruth's website, or on Amazon. You will get 20% off your order. And if you do that on Amazon, then when you get to the checkout screen, you will come to the payment options plan, and there's a place for you to enter my promo code. So that's where you'll enter my promo code, click checkout, and then you'll see that it takes off 20%. So for the Liquid Morning Multivitamin, that is going to take $13.99 off of your final cost. I will put my link, my code, and all the details about Mary Ruth's Organics and my discount for you guys in the description of the video. And since when is 35 old? 35 is not old. But I think that we have come to view 35 as old in terms of thinking about, continuing having babies at that age for a few reasons. Number one, we just are a lot sicker as a people. Even though people are living longer now, our life expectancy is longer, we have a lot more chronic illness. So people in their late 20s and 30s and 40s are starting to have these chronic illnesses, and they don't feel good. They're in a lot of pain. Maybe they have to take a lot of medications already. And so they do feel old, even though they're 35. But you guys, 35 is not old. We should still feel like we are in our prime and we are vibrant and we have more than enough energy to chase babies around at 35 or at 40. And I know it is hard waking up in the middle of the night with babies and meeting the needs of little ones and all of the seasons when they're dependent on you, but it doesn't last forever. Even if you do embrace childbearing throughout your entire natural fertile window, it does come to an end. Like, you're not going to be 60 and waking up in the middle of the night. Maybe, I don't know, there are no guarantees. I mean, what if you planned it to where you just had 2 kids in your 20s, and then maybe when you're 60 and your kids are older, one of your children is in a car accident and passes away, and that leaves you to care for your grandchildren. So, you never know. But that leads me into my next point on why I think people view 35 as old for having children, and they're maybe scared to continue having children past that age or don't want to. And that is this concept of children being an accessory or a item to check off on the bucket list of life. And it's kind of a temporary thing, parenthood, that is. You view it like this, I want to maybe travel to these places. I want to get this degree, do this in my career. I want to get married. I want to have 2 kids. And then, I know when I have kids, I'll be doing the whole parenting thing. But, if I cut that short, then maybe by the time I'm 50, I will be free again and I can go back to doing me. I think that's just probably the default position. That's how most people in the West feel these days, is that their life kind of goes on hold or it's paused when they have children. And once they shoo those children out of the house, then they can get back to actually living. And that's of course not the Christian worldview. Like, as Christians, we simply cannot view it. We can't view children or parenting like that. I mean, children are our future. They are a heritage from the Lord. They are blessings. They're only spoken of positively when we read the Bible. And even when we observe nature, we can view that, children, obviously, without children, there is no future. But this default position of just viewing children as an accessory to the kind of like American dream life always pretty much includes calculating when that end date is, when the last child turns 18 so that you can get back to living and just doing you. And I think that's probably the main reason why people don't want to have children past 35. Although it's kind of interesting to view the trends in birth rates. People are having fewer children. They're having them later in life. So they don't want to have children in their 20s because they're busy, going to college, getting started in their career and kind of getting established, or maybe getting married and spending those first few years getting to know each other. But then they also don't want to have kids past 35 because that is considered geriatric pregnancy age, and they want to lower their chance for having complications. So there's like a 5-year acceptable window to have children, and it's basically from 30 to 35. Spend your 20s doing you, getting established. Don't have babies after 35. You've got between 30 and 35 to have a couple babies, and that's it. And I can relate because when I was younger, I've always had pretty strong convictions about not using contraception or anything, but I definitely did have those feelings of wondering like, ooh, okay, well, how much time will I have to go and do all the things I want to do after I'm done being a mother? But then I had children and I realized, motherhood, it is not temporary. It's actually permanent. It's actually a forever calling. Fatherhood as well. Parenting is forever. It doesn't have an end date. Just because your child turns 18 doesn't mean that they stop needing you. It means that they need you in different ways. And, it should be less physically demanding. You're not like waking up in the middle of the night to take care of them. Maybe less financially demanding if you've raised them to take care of themselves, but they still need you. They still need your presence, your advice, your wisdom, your counsel, your guidance. And if they have children, which I hope my children have children, then they need you as a grandparent. Like, grandparents are not optional. They're necessary. I understand sometimes there are weird situations where grandparents can't be involved, but that's such a tragedy when we lose out on that extended family. So I've realized all these things now that, there's no end date to my motherhood. As long as I'm alive, I'm always my children's mother. And even I will be mothering in new ways as a grandmother. And actually embracing that, which that's God's plan, is that we embrace the vocation of parenting for life. That we go into it thinking this is a lifelong privilege. It's a commitment, but most privileges are commitments. They actually require work and dedication. But since I've embraced that, it's actually been freeing that I don't feel like my life and my desires and my wants are on the back burner, just, waiting for my kids to get out of the house one day. Now I just have embraced that this is my life. And that's actually, made me shift my thinking to where now I want to incorporate my kids and someday grandkids into all those things that I want to do. And when we embrace God's design, or if you're not religious, you can even say nature's design for life, then we find that our desires actually change to become in line with God's desires. So, when we read in the Bible that God will give us the desires of our heart, that doesn't mean that He's going to give us what our human heart desires at every moment. That means that if we conform our will to His, He will literally give us new desires so that we desire what He desires, so that our will is in line with His will, and we take joy in the things that we should take joy in and the things that He calls good. So I can truly say that my will has been conformed in that way. However, I do still remember those feelings of kind of like looking forward to having my time back. And so I relate to that. Like, I'm not trying to demonize anyone. I think that those are very natural things to think about, but that's the beauty of just conforming your life to God's will is, He takes our natural emotions and elevates them to the supernatural level. Just one more thing before we go into specifics on the health of mom and baby. You might have your life perfectly planned where you are going to be done having kids at this particular point so that 18 years later, you can get your life back and get your time back and go do what you want. But there are no guarantees there. Like, there are no guarantees that you will have a healthy child. Or maybe you do have healthy children. You have 2 kids and you planned it that way and they're born healthy and perfect and everything goes great. But then one day, one of them has a traumatic brain injury and they require extensive care around the clock for the rest of their life. Like, you cannot predict those things. There are no guarantees in parenthood. Parenthood is laying down your life saying that for the rest of these little people's lives, I will be there in whatever capacity they need me. Okay, let's move on and talk about maternal health. So for me personally, I am 35. I'm nursing a 1-year-old who is showing no signs of slowing down, which is typical. My baby's nursed like beyond 2, and I even nurse them usually when I'm pregnant with the next baby. But right now, I don't even have the option to get pregnant because my cycles have not returned. But that doesn't mean that there is nothing that I can do to be thinking forward about the time when my cycles do return and I am fertile and I do potentially become pregnant again. I want to be taking care of myself to prime my body for that season so that I can be in good hormonal health, good overall health, and hopefully have a healthy pregnancy and do my part to influence the baby's health as well. So general health considerations for me just, would be the same as if I wasn't open to new life. I want to be maintaining my weight in a healthy range, maintaining stable blood sugars. Blood sugar problems are huge for fertility. At PCOS, for example, that's actually just insulin resistance. And if you have PCOS, you probably know that because you've probably been prescribed metformin. And metformin is a drug for diabetes. The only reason that works for PCOS is because of the insulin resistance issue. So if you get to the root and resolve the insulin resistance, then the PCOS will resolve as well. So that's something that I'm really mindful of. I have had periods in my life where I've been like addicted to sugar. And so I've just had to like reset that because of the gut-brain axis, the gut-brain connection. When you become addicted to sugar, then your gut sends signals to your brain causing you to crave it more. And it's like this vicious cycle. And then your blood sugars are on these constant roller coasters, and that's what causes insulin resistance and can lead to diabetes or PCOS or all these things. So if you've got a problem with that, I understand. I have a food blog which involves baking. Like, I understand. Just look into some kind of fasting to break that cycle of sugar addiction and make sure you're fueling yourself well by prioritizing protein and healthy fats. So don't grab your carbs and your sugary stuff first. I'm not saying to never eat a cookie again. I'm saying, fill up on really good animal fats and proteins and maybe some like really, good quality homemade freshly milled bread or something. If you do those things, if you break your sugar craving and reprogram your gut, I highly recommend the GAPS diet, and then focus on quality proteins, fats, whatever, then you will be able to indulge every once in a while without binge eating. The next thing would be probably sleep and oxygenation. So just making sure that you're getting good quality sleep. A lot of people these days are mouth breathers. I know that it has been a problem for me, and that really interferes with our sleep quality and oxygenation. So mouth taping, look into mouth taping, whether you're trying to conceive or not. But just remember that our hormonal balance is heavily influenced by sleep. There have even been studies that have shown that shift workers have a lot higher rates of infertility, but anything that really affects your sleep quality can affect your fertility. And what mouth taping does is it forces you to breathe through your nose. And when you breathe through your nose, nitric oxide is produced, which increases oxygen uptake by 30 to 40%. It's one of those, 30 or 40%. So when you're mouth breathing, you're getting 30 to 40% less oxygen delivered to every cell in your body than you should be getting. And that is not good for any area of our health, but especially for fertility. Another point along the vein of circulation and oxygenation is moderate exercise. Women in the childbearing season should try to reduce stress in all areas of life, and that includes exercise. So we don't want to be doing super high intensity exercises every day of the week. If you want to do some high intensity stuff like 1 or 2 days a week, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the bulk of our exercise should be like steady state stuff. Maybe weightlifting, strength training is great. That's also great for insulin resistance. If you are pre-diabetic or you have PCOS or something, or have insulin resistance, then you've got to be weight training. But then low intensity, steady state cardio, walking. That just means walking. Walking is like the greatest thing we can be doing. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, I walk around my house all day taking care of babies and doing chores. That's actually not enough. So pedometers are like $5 to $10. They're really cheap. You can wear one if you don't want to keep your phone on you all day and track your steps. I think you'll be surprised. So I'm very busy in and around my home, but if I don't make the extra effort to get steps in by taking a dedicated walk or exercising, then I actually only get like 5,000 to 6,000 steps in a day. And that is even with doing all the cooking and chores I do and chasing all my kids. So exercise is really, really important for maintaining overall health and fertility. We touched on stress. One thing I want to bring up too is caffeine. So caffeine is one of those things that can actually be really beneficial. It can be great for you if you have a healthy metabolism and if you are well fueled. But if you're not, then that can be really problematic, especially when you're trying to conceive. And so I think of it like this. Drinking caffeine or consuming caffeine is like stepping on the gas pedal. Well, if you don't have any gas, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels. So how you can know if caffeine is affecting you that way is, does it make you energized or does it make you anxious? If you have anxiety and you're consuming caffeine, that needs to go. Don't cut it all out at once. Just wean off. But there are lower caffeine options too if coffee is problematic for you. And like I said, maybe it's not problematic for you. Maybe you have a really healthy metabolism and you're just in good overall health. And when you drink coffee, you just feel energized. You're not sweating like crazy and you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're just focused, have clarity, and you're energized. Then great. Keep up your coffee habit. It's fine. Unless you're drinking huge amounts, then it's fine to consume caffeine while you're trying to conceive or even while you're pregnant. But if it is problematic or if you are having trouble getting pregnant, then I would try cutting it out. And I actually do usually cut way down or even cut it out when I'm trying to get pregnant. Some alternatives would just be matcha. Matcha is great, small amount of caffeine there. Also, if you totally want to cut out the caffeine, but you still like that warm cup of coffee feel, then look into dandelion tea. There are so many options for coffee replacement if you just like that ritual of having something warm in the morning, which I do. So the next thing that I'm doing and that I highly recommend for those of us who want to be open to life in that later end of the fertile window is charting your cycle. I am not going to go in depth on how to chart your cycle, but you're essentially monitoring different symptoms in your body to gauge your hormonal health. And this is more effective than really invasive hormonal treatments or even things like IVF as far as restoring fertility. So I do the symptothermal method. I check my basal body temperature every morning. It takes just a few seconds and I record it in an app, and then I monitor other bodily symptoms. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the details right now. If you're not sure what I mean by charting, then check out the book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. It is a great resource, has everything you need to know to use charting to monitor your fertility or whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to balance your hormones, if you're trying to avoid pregnancy, if you're trying to achieve pregnancy, this is going to be the resource that you want for everything you need to know about charting. I've actually used the symptothermal charting method to conceive my last 2 babies because I was having secondary infertility. I was in my 30s. Things weren't happening as easy as they did in my 20s. And just by charting, I was able to identify that I had low progesterone and a luteal phase defect. And then I was able to use a natural remedy to fix that within just a few months and get pregnant. I've done that twice now, and I might have to do it again. We'll just see how it works out. And so all of those things are going to help you really just focus on your overall health, whether you get pregnant or not. And that is going to be the biggest determining factor in maternal health in pregnancy past 35. It is your general health, your overall health, as opposed to your age. All right, let's move into health considerations for babies born in that later end of the fertile window. We are born with all of the eggs that we will ever have. They just lay dormant until puberty. So we're born with like 1 or 2 million eggs, and then by puberty we have 300 to 500,000 left, and that is when the action starts happening. And every cycle, a group of like 5 to 20 eggs starts maturing, and then one of them is ovulated, sometimes more than one. That's how you end up with fraternal twins, but usually just one egg takes the lead, is ovulated, and then potentially fertilized and is a baby. So what that means is that our eggs age with us. So our eggs that we have when we are 40 are 20 years older than the eggs that we had when we were 20. And eggs, just like every other, cell in the body, they are subject to damage over time. But once again, that goes back to our general health. If we are keeping ourselves healthy in general, we are going to have healthier eggs at 40 than maybe somebody at 25 who takes terrible care of themselves. So think of a woman who's 45 years old but has eaten clean for her whole life. She's been active. She's just kind of lived a general like non-toxic lifestyle and taking good care of herself, as opposed to a 25-year-old who binge drinks every weekend, is maybe really overweight, eats processed food all the time. There's a good chance that the eggs of that 45-year-old woman are going to be just as healthy or healthier than that 25-year-old woman's eggs. And actually, most people don't know this, but egg health changes from cycle to cycle depending on our follicular environment on any given cycle. And what do I mean by follicular environment? Well, I mean our general health, that cycle when follicles are developing and one will potentially be ovulated. So any kind of stress that we undergo, or illness, or just really poor lifestyle changes can upset our hormonal balance to where it's not necessarily that it changes the quality of any given egg, but here's what happens. On a normal cycle, when a woman is in good health, the healthiest egg is the one that's going to be ovulated, because that group of 5 to 20 follicles that is selected by the body each cycle to start maturing, they compete against one another. And the strongest one is the most responsive to follicular stimulating hormone, to FSH. And that's the one that ends up ovulated, that strongest one. Well, when we are not in a state of good hormonal health, then that can actually lead to one of the, lesser healthy eggs responding to FSH and being ovulated. So that's what I mean when I say that our egg quality and egg health changes from month to month. It is that less healthy eggs could end up being ovulated because of hormonal imbalance. And I see where that could be like a scary thing to hear, but to me that's actually pretty exciting. That means that I have a lot of control over my egg health as well. Of course, there are no guarantees. There's no set formula like do X, Y, and Z, and then you're guaranteed a healthy baby. But that goes back to, the fact that children aren't commodities. We're not entitled to children in general. Nobody's entitled to a child because that's a person, it's a human being. And we're definitely not entitled to healthy children. So, I think it's just really important that we have that understanding that we have the obligation to take care of our body, to steward our body well and be in good health. But also there are no guarantees in life, but there are definitely things that we can do to increase our odds of our baby being healthy later in the fertile window. And a few specific things that I think about when I think about egg health, that's going to be folate. So folate is crucial for DNA repair. Our eggs do age with us, so they are subject to damage over time, to oxidative stress, to free radical damage, and folate really helps to repair DNA when that does happen. So I think we all know that by now, right? We should be getting like 400 to 800 micrograms of folate every day. And that is true no matter what your age. If you're in the childbearing season, then you need to make sure that you are getting your folate, not folic acid, not the synthetic form. Get your folate every day. Another really important one is CoQ10. So CoQ10 is really important for fueling mitochondria. And so if you're concerned about egg health, then you really need to make sure that you're getting CoQ10 in your diet. It's found in small amounts in, I believe, organ meats and fatty fish. maybe leafy greens, but you can also just take a CoQ10 supplement, and I take a CoQ10 supplement every day. A few more things: focus on healthy fats, getting your omega-3s. Don't go on a low-fat diet if you are trying to conceive at any age. So make sure that you are getting lots of good quality animal fat, and also vitamin D. Low levels of vitamin D are highly associated with poor egg quality, and it's not always enough to get out in the sun. Of course, you want to be getting your sunshine, but also things like egg yolks and good quality dairy are going to be great sources of vitamin D. Just make sure that the eggs are actually pastured. So if you can find somebody local who has chickens that are legit out on a pasture, then those egg yolks are gonna have lots more vitamin D, and the same with cows. Try to get local milk from cows out on pasture, and make sure it's A2 milk. There is a difference. If you're not sure about what I mean by A2 milk, you can just look up the difference between A1 and A2. There's actually a book called The Devil in the Milk. Such a great read. Highly recommend, especially if you are investing in raw milk, whether that is that you have a dairy cow or that you're buying from a local dairy. Do not be consuming A1 milk, because it's been shown to drastically increase the rate of diabetes and inflammation and all sorts of things, especially hormonal imbalance. So A2 dairy and pastured egg yolks, great sources of vitamin D. That wraps it up for today's chat. I could stand here and talk to you guys about this all day long. This is probably my favorite topic in the entire world, but I just have to end this. I have to end this at some point. But before I do, I want to say one more thing. I'm talking to the ladies here because that's what I do, but please remember that fertility is like 50-50. It's 50% on the man, 50% on the woman. So when a couple is experiencing infertility, 50% of the time it's the guy. So don't think that, you can just, as a woman, do all the right things and then have a baby, because it's dependent on your husband as well. So when you're thinking about making these changes, you have a lot of influence in the home. If you're doing the cooking and the shopping, and usually supplements too, my husband, he doesn't care if I hand him something and say, take this supplement, he'll just take it. So you've got a lot of influence there, but make sure you're thinking about your husband's health as well as your own. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. Be sure to check out the offer that Mary Ruth's Organics has for Hopewell Heights subscribers before you go. When you use my code MRO HopewellH, you will get 20% off your Mary Ruth's order at Amazon or on their website. All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Mary.